this paragraph to add some more information in terms of the police and some of what a strategy that they're implementing, and then we will ground it with your experience and your knowledge on the issue. Okay, from a critical anti-racist lens, the Toronto Police Services Board implemented a new race-based data collection strategy just recently last month in January of 2020. According to Police Chief Mark Saunders, he said the purpose of the new policy and our strategy is to identify, to monitor, and to eliminate potential systemic racism. He said, collecting the data will allow us to analyze and report on it. It will allow the service to be informed, to recognize trends, and to develop training and procedures to best equip our officers to do their jobs safely. With that, it will support our members in delivering intelligence-led, bias-free policing. What is your response to that? And then I'll also add another layer of what are some strategies if you think this will work? What are strategies that you think will work?
In response to the comment about race-based data collection, there's nothing that's going to be discovered in the collection of this data that they do not know already, that I do not know already, that we've been advocating for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. The police system is a racist system, and they operate because we operate in a racist society. We give police, through legislation, the discretion to use force. That's why we give them the gun. We give the police, through legislation, the discretion to lay charges, and we train them to apply that equally with equity and justice. And we know that's not the reality. The police know it because they can get away with the over-policing of certain communities, certain people. Not only the over-policing, the police brutality. We've had cases where 4 police officers go up into a room on the 2nd floor. A black man is hovering behind a mattress because he's in fear, and they shoot him and kill him and say they felt threatened by him. That's why they shot him, and they got off scot-free. We have another more recent situation where a person's on a streetcar with a knife this big. The streetcar is empty, and the police officer comes on, pumps 9 shots into him and said he felt threatened. And he's out walking the streets right now after doing 3 years. So there's definitely inequity and injustice. So collecting this data now to inform them so they can have intelligent decisions, right, treats us as though we don't exist. They know it, we know it. If they were really concerned, they would start taking some action in terms of retraining, not promoting the people that lay the most charges, right, because that becomes a performance appraisal credit. Well, how many did you profile? Right? How many charges did you lay? Well, you did that many? Well, okay, we're going to give you a promotion. Who's the one that's paying the price? You go into the court system and you'll see who's there. You mentioned the people that are waiting for charges that were laid to be convicted. Over 51%, 54% of the people in the jail system are on remand. That means they've not had their day in court.
That's right.
And who do they look like? You and me. So, I'm not sure what the purpose of that was. But if they're really concerned about doing something, just start doing it, right? Because the carnage on the street, the carnage in the jail system, right? The people that are paying the price through the discretion that we give them legislation to use, basically is not waiting for the justice of society. It's about the unequal distribution of justice against a certain community. So, That's my response to that if Chief Sanders was in the room. In terms of moving forward, and from the experience that we have, because the population that we work with is not your typical population. Like Chuck is not your typical person. Sorry, Chucky.
I have very low tolerance.
But when he speaks, I listen to him because of his experience that he brings to the table, and it's unfiltered, right? He's not trying to impress me, as you can see, right? He just speaks his speak. The young lady that was sitting beside me, she's lost her 2 sons to gun violence, and she challenges me and says, "Why don't I speak about love?" When she can speak about love, even though she's lost her only 2 sons to gun violence. And I said, "Well, I'm speaking about gun violence, I'm not speaking about love." And she said, "If I can speak about love, you should be able to learn to speak about love, because that's what's missing." But in terms of moving forward, I'm going to go back. I want people to start looking at gun violence differently. Gun violence is not the problem. Gun violence is the result, is a symptom of a major problem. We've all been to school, and we've all got that report card, and we're looking to see how many subjects we failed and how much we passed and the marks. Look at gun violence as a report card that tells you how good or bad you did yesterday in terms of these subjects. So whether it's policing, whether it's mental health, whether it's rehabilitation, whether it's education, whether it's housing. If those things are messed up, the level of violence in your society will increase. Mm-hmm. And it's not only gun violence. You spoke about suicides. There's domestic violence. Mm-hmm. There's other forms of internal violence. A young person that's 15 years old says to me that he fears living more than he fears dying. I said, "What? You know nothing about living." And he said, "Well, right, you don't know what I have to go through to survive on a daily basis." At 15 years old, that person was not born that way. Mm-hmm. He grew up in an environment that created that. Mm-hmm. So let's look at gun violence, right, as a symptom that tells you how good or bad you did or you didn't do in these specific areas. And trust me, there's a lot of failures over here. However, the communities and the people that are feeling the brunt of this look like me and you. And that's why we should be concerned. Mm-hmm. Today is February the 8th. This time last year, we had 2 homicides due to gun violence. This year, 1 year later, we've had 9 homicides due to gun violence. That's more than a 400% increase. And we're going to sit down here and talk. Mm-hmm. Right? So I want to move into the action piece, because the carnage on the streets, right, is unacceptable. This is Toronto 2020. This is not Toronto 1920. Right? We have the resources and the means, but the system is not set up. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have to advocate. So moving forward, let's look on all the different perspectives. Let's think of a jigsaw puzzle with 20 shiny pieces, all different shapes and all looking pretty. And everybody's running around thinking that their piece is the key piece, or their piece is the only piece. So whether it's housing, whether it's mental health, whatever it is. We cannot address the issue of gun violence until we bring all those pieces onto the table and start connecting them. Because we can't deal with mental health if we don't deal with identity and we do not deal with alienation, right? You bring all those pieces to the table and then you start connecting them until the puzzle gets complete. And that's your solution. So we don't have the leadership at City Hall, Queen's Park, or in Ottawa to bring those pieces together. And the only time that they will even think about it is when the violence spills over into their communities. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the scary thing about it. So we're not going to call for a gunfight in Rosedale to make our point. Drug dealing in Rosedale to make our point. Who's going to bring those pieces together? Because what we're doing with Zero Gun Violence movement, right, is one piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. It's not the puzzle. And the politicians only use gun violence for self-serving. $6 million that they just announced, right? And I'm saying to myself, the communities are not underserved, they're poorly served. We've got programs coming out of every corner in Jane and Finch. The kids don't even know which program to show up. The only time they show up is because they know there's going to be a free meal at this one, there's going to be free tokens at this one, and there's going to be a letter at this one. That's the only time they show up, right? They know them. Who's playing who, right? But we're going to give $6 million because we had a shooting with 3 people in a neighborhood that it wasn't supposed to happen. We have a mayor that calls an anti-violence forum and he invites his friends and chiefs of police. Is there any community representation there? Hell no. So this is why. So for us, gun violence is not a surprise. It's predictable. It's set up that way. And as I say all the time now, the first word in community safety is community. It's not police and it's not politicians. It's their failures that have caused this. So the community has to become the lead now in terms of solutioning this gun violence issue. And that's where I'm going to spend my time focusing on. Because clearly, as you can see from the race-based thing that they're doing, they're playing games.
Exactly.
But we're losing our kids' lives and we're losing a generation of people.
Yeah.
And in fact, we're planting the seeds for the next generation of violence to take place the longer we take to address it. Right? So, solution, I'm going to leave that because I want to hear what other people have to say. But my anger, my frustration, right, is rooted in an understanding of what's taking place on the streets of Toronto by speaking to the people that will speak truth to what's going on.